any app or flow that's built within your organization, and depending on which environments you choose to apply this policy to, because as a global tenant admin, you can choose to apply it to all environments or only a specific one or excluding certain environments. If this policy is in place, I can't build an app that spans those two groups. So I can only, for example, simply put, only build an app that, for example, has business-only data connectors within it, or only has non-business data connectors within it. I can't span that gap. And so let's jump into, just want to show quickly how this looks. So this is within the, this is admin.powerapps.com. You can also go to admin.flow.microsoft.com. I'm a global tenant admin, and so I have full visibility over my tenant here, the demo tenant we're going to be walking through today. And you can see here, we have, I think this is like something like 24 environments, 25 environments. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to data policies. And so this is the data loss prevention policies, or DLP policies in short, that I was talking about. And what I have here is we already have a default policy that's set up. And again, I'm a tenant admin, so I can apply it across all environments. But you can see here that DLP policies layer on top of each other, right? So I can have multiple policies in place for my organization. I can have a base policy, for example, that's defined across all of my environments. And this is something that I would urge that you do within your organization, is have a base policy that you put in place that spans environments, and then think around, depending on the types of apps, the types of flows you want to roll out, you're going to end up creating different environments for some of the scenarios we talked about earlier. Think around whether or not you want to be more lenient or more strict in certain in those environments that you set up. Like there may be cases where your development environment may be more strict or less strict, depending, and where the default policy for some cases, maybe you want to try out a specific application and might want to, for example, exclude that environment temporarily for development purposes. But again, this is just the level of control that you need to think through. And here, for example, these are the data groups I'm talking about. So for example, all the connectors you see here have been categorized in business data, and adding another connector is as simple as just adding it, and basically it just moves it from the non-business category that you see below. Let me make this a little bigger. From the non-business data here category you see here up to the top. And you can see here that we've categorized for this tenant things like SQL, the common data service, some of the management connectors and the office connectors as the business data in this case. And the non-business data is kind of all the rest. And another thing I want to call out here is you can also set what we call a default group for the two categories. And so we have new connectors that roll out that are launched, really every month, depending on which new services have lit up within our platform. And by setting the default group, you choose which category that any new connector lands by default. So it's another thing that you should keep in mind when you're setting these policies within your environment. Okay? All right. Again, it's as simple as going to admin.powerapps.com. And again, so 3 and 10. So what we've covered so far, and I'll reiterate this with some links at the end, is kind of that secure section. And before we move on to monitor and alert and action, secure your data, consider the conditional access policies that we now support for the applications for both PowerApps and Flow. Environments are critical to understanding how things are deployed within your service. Security is tied to environments and tied to the resources built within them. So make sure you understand how you want to roll something out. And kind of once you understand environments, also think through how you want to define the data leakage policies, those DLP policies, for your organization, categorizing really the types of apps and flows that can be supported across those different environments within your tenant. Okay? Awesome. All right, so let's move on to monitor. And here I have some new stuff, and some existing stuff we support today and some new stuff to talk about. So first off, so audit logging is something that, this is a common thing that if you're an Office 365 administrator, you're aware of. Or Dynamics 365, which is the Office Security and Compliance Center has a central activity logging service that really most services within Office, that Office and Dynamics 365 ecosystems write to. And these really are talking around both, for example, end user actions and administration actions that happen within your organization. And what's really, really awesome on top of that is because it's a central service, Office has a documented API for querying and building against that data. And once it's there, you can do a lot of very, very powerful things on top of it. You can integrate it into your SIEM solution or your SIEM provider of choice. You can build your own custom solutions around alerting and monitoring on top of that data. And what I want to talk about next is actually how you can do that and do some very, very powerful things within Flow, within the Power Platform toolset today. And so for PowerApps and Flow, one thing I want to just reiterate really quick is that Flow already has activity logs that flow to the Office activity logging center, right? And this is accessed through the Security Compliance Center. And PowerApps, we are actually working to actually build activity logging. This is in progress right now. It's going to roll out later this year in preview. And here are some of the events that we're targeting in the first phase. And I know this is one area too. I would love to hear feedback either directly or in our community. And I know Kent on the Flow side would love to hear it too, which is if you think anything is missing here. This, again, for PowerApps is something that we're rolling out right now. But the gist of it, at least what we're talking about right now, is capturing all of those management and administrative actions within PowerApps and Flow. Anytime someone creates something, shares it, edits it, updates it, marks it, for example, to be featured app or as a hero app, for example. All those actions, capturing that history, capturing that audit trail, such that you can either act on it from a programmatic point of view, or you have it as a reference to go back, such that you have an understanding of, when I look at the current state of my environment, how did it get to be there, okay? And what actually I wanted to do real quick was just to show, if you're curious as to how to get to the Security and Compliance Center, you just go to protection.office.com. You can also get to it from the waffle. And search an investigation here. You can go audit log search. And let's do that. And if you go to activities, if you see here, I'm just going to search Flow. You can see that all of those Flow activities, and Power BI as well, you can see here. These are all of those actions that I talked about that you can just select and show up here. And I think this is both available from if you just want to search from kind of a specific point of view, or if you want to do it programmatically as well. Okay? Awesome. All right. Another thing that I want to talk about is from the PowerApps and Flow admin centers, you also have the ability to download a report that we call actually I call it the active users report, but effectively what it does is it gives you a means to understand who within your environment or within your organization has actually logged in and used the service. And most importantly, what licenses have they acquired. And this is important for understanding, for example, people who have signed up for Flow Free or the Flow Free license or the PowerApps Plan 2 trial license. And so all you have to do is you have to go to admin.powerapps.com. If you're a global tenant admin, you can go under tenant and click user licenses and download this report you see here. It looks a little bit like this. You can see here, which is basically gives you visibility at a per user level. What was the first time that they signed in? What license they had? You can see here, because PowerApps is included, has capabilities included within Office, has our own standalone PowerApps Plan 1 and Plan 2 licenses. You can have visibility over what license someone has and when they've used the service. And I think this is most critical and most important for understanding who's kind of virally and tried out and come within your organization. And maybe they haven't even built anything, but it does give you a good visibility over how many people have actually tried the service within your org.